Hello friends, let's talk about a comedy and romance movie. In the start of the movie, we see some teachers having their end of school year party. Elizabeth, one of the school teachers, fakes having to miss her students and co-teachers while bragging about her diamond ring and her retirement from teaching. Afterwards, she heads out with her stuffs, getting into her porch car, while also driving recklessly. When she gets home, her happiness quickly turns to sorrows when her fiancé's mom tells him to quit the relationship. She tries to convince him that she's not a gold digger, but he sees right through her. With her retirement and engagement no longer possible, Elizabeth decides to go back to teaching the next session. She makes her way to her classroom only to be stopped by an over-friendly teacher, Amy. Obviously uninterested, Elizabeth quickly ends the conversation and heads to her class. The next day, we see Amy is proving to be committed at her job and actively engaging her students. Elizabeth arrives late and drunk for her class, then she gets her students to watch a movie for the period of learning, while she gets some sleep. During the lunch break, the gym teacher Russell walks up to her and asks her out, but she bluntly turns him down. Amy tries to ask her why she showed a movie in class on her first day, but this only gets them in an argument. While heading out, Elizabeth sees a substitute teacher, Scott. As soon as she spots his luxury watch, she volunteers to show him around and gets extra friendly when she discovers that he's single. Later on, Elizabeth visits a plastic surgeon in order to get a boob job, but she's told that she would need a lot of money to do it. Determined to get a bigger chest, she calls her ex to ask for money, but he hangs up on her. She asks her new roommate Kirk, but he tells her he doesn't have such amount. After learning that there is a car wash event that weekend, she decides to grab the opportunity and visits Principal Wally. She uses his love for dolphins to her advantage, by talking about them and pretending to be interested. She volunteers to supervise the event and persuades him to pick her instead of Amy. When the day comes, Elizabeth arrives wearing an attractive outfit as she gets the attention of the crowd. As she washes every car, she leaves everyone drooling while supplying some money in her pocket. Amy sees her counting the money she made from the car wash, so she decides to report to Wally, but he shoves her off. One day, Elizabeth tells Lenny how she believes Amy is a phony. She proves this when Scott arrives and talks to her, but Amy interrupts their conversation. Later that day, we see Elizabeth holding a meeting with the parents of her students. Afterwards, one of the parents approaches Elizabeth about his son, then asks her to pay extra attention to him before stylishly giving her some money. This gives Elizabeth an idea, then she goes around the room to collect money from all the parents that are willing to pay extra for their kids. During a winter school party, Russell approaches Elizabeth, but she continues to disregard him and flirt with Scott while dancing with him. When Scott calls her to talk privately, she discovers that he has a crush on Amy. Obviously annoyed, she makes up stories about her, so this discourages Nick. Later on, Russell and Elizabeth spend some time alone as they goof around in the gym, before lying on mats and talking about life. She rejects him again, but he still tells her that she's fine even without the surgery. Another day, we see them watching Scott's band play, then Elizabeth encourages Lenny to flirt with some men in the club. She pushes her and gives her tips until she reluctantly agrees. Russell asks Elizabeth out again, to which she quickly declines. They continue with their banter until Scott tells everyone he wants to give a solo performance. Elizabeth waves at him and assumes it's her, but she realizes that the song is for Amy. When heading home, she takes out her annoyance on Lenny until she learns about the state test having a grand prize for teachers. She realizes that she can use the money for her surgery, so she decides to turn her class to a better one. She gets her students to start reading books, while also competing for stars. Seeing that all her hard work isn't getting the students where she wants them, she decides to get the test questions for the upcoming test. She disguises as a journalist to meet up with the exam officer in charge of the test questions. Proving hard to break, Elizabeth starts flirting with him. She convinces him to take her to his office to get intimate, then he takes her there. While putting on some music, she drugs him and forces him to drink it. When he passes out, she takes his ID card and get the test questions. Weeks later, the results come out and Elizabeth is announced as the winner of the prize. While stepping out of the auditorium, Amy congratulates Elizabeth in a sarcastic manner, while also telling her that she would be the chaperone alongside Scott for the school's field trip. Elizabeth then goes over to book her appointment for the surgery. Afterwards, she drops by the school and leaves a poisoned apple for Amy. Assuming that it was from one of her students, she rubs it all over her face before taking a big bite. This gets her sick, so Elizabeth is made to replace her in the field trip. While Elizabeth is away on the field trip with her boyfriend, Amy decides to go over her things and investigate. She switches her table with that of Elizabeth, thus she gets a handyman to open the locker for her. When she opens it, she finds her wig, and also a torn test booklet. She goes over to the exams office to investigate, then she gets the exam officer to confess that he was fooled by Elizabeth. She goes back to the school and tells the principal, which obviously makes him furious. Meanwhile, Elizabeth gets closer to Scott, so she agrees to help him dry hump. While going out of the room, Russell sees her going out of the room and she instantly looks defensive and tells him it's nothing. She asks him out for a drink, but he rejects her instead. The next day, one of Elizabeth's students is rejected by a popular girl, so she follows him when he runs into the woods to cry. She advises him based on her personal experience, so this eventually gives him some confidence. When they watch the boy boasting of how he made out with a girl in the woods, Russell thanks Elizabeth for what she did for the kid, but she denies having anything to do with it. While they are heading back, Amy surprises them and declares that the school knows Elizabeth cheated and that it's only a matter of time before she's arrested. Afterwards, Elizabeth gets her roommate to go threaten the exam officer, and also show pictures she took while he was drunk. When the time comes to testify against Elizabeth, he tells the superintendent that he doesn't know Elizabeth, and that he was lying when he said he knew her. When he steps out, Amy opines for a retest, but Elizabeth decides to play her cards. She convinces everyone that a retest is a bad idea, and also tells them that some teachers are regular drug users. When they call in the cops, the dog takes them to Amy's class, who had exchanged her table with that of Elizabeth. The cops check, but they found nothing in the desk. Elizabeth suggests that they might be a false button, so they check and see the drugs hidden in the table. When Amy realizes that she's been tricked, she tries to attack Elizabeth, but she's stopped and arrested by the cops. At the end of the school year, Annie is transferred to another school, so Scott tries to take his shot at Elizabeth, but she rejects him. Afterwards, Elizabeth meets Russell at the gym, then they both engage in a conversation. After subtly admitting their attraction to each other, they both end up kissing. In the scene that concludes the movie, we see that Elizabeth has been promoted to the position of a guidance counselor. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to help the channel out. Also, check out more stories on our channel.